Well, welcome everybody. Slightly different format of video this week. I thought I was going to be starting work on the passenger side door, get it up to the same level as the driver's side. And I thought, you know what, I'll just check to make sure that the driver's side door is all good and ready to go. And that's when I discovered this. So this is the driver's side door. All looks good. Fits the shape in the car. A couple of times splatters of surface rust, but soon clean those up. But I just thought, you know what, it'd be a good idea just to make sure we haven't got any major lumps and bumps across here before I give it a quick skim of filler, sand down, and all ready to go. And we start from this end, and see, that's not bad. And then when we start coming down here, we discover that we have a huge low spot. Now, I thought not to worry, you know, a bit of panel distortion. We'll do a bit of heat shaping on here, a bit of heat, make it expand, we'll pop it up. But the problem is that this whole seam here is actually too low and needs to be about half an inch higher up. God only knows how that's happened, but I think it's time for Henry Cavill to say his thing. So what are we going to do to fix this? Well, I think the first thing we need to do is get this piece off. It's tacked along here. Well, I've got a horrible feeling I seam welded it across there, which is not good. One way or the other, it's going to have to come off. I think we're going to have to somehow jack this piece up, stretch this piece out, and then sort out whatever issues and things that we've got on the panel itself. This is not going to be easy to fix. Anyway, let's try and work out how we're going to get that bit off first, and then we see where we go.
Okay, so future me here, speaking to you from the safety of my desk and as far away from the hammers as I can get. So, as you can see, I managed to get the old piece of steel panel cut off, and whilst it does look a little bit rough, with a bit of extra hammer and dolly work, it'll all be okay. So with that cut away, it was time for the delicate work of hitting bits of metal with large hammers. A lot. This is definitely the downside of this sort of metalwork, is that you just don't realise how much effort is required to wield hammers, and just how many blisters you're going to get afterwards from a long day doing this. And in the hottest day of the year. And it's fair to say I didn't smell great by the end of it. Anyway, enough of me moaning, let's get back to Garage Me to see how he's getting on.
Okay, fairly brutal hammering. Let's see how that looks. And to be honest, that's pretty decent. I mean, there's probably 0.5 millimetre there on the thing, so one more thump on that will do. That's okay. Again, there's a few high spots and low spots, but we're talking about 0.5 millimetre, probably one big thump there. Sorry, one big thump there, one big thump there. That gets that. Then we need to work out what we're going to do about that bit. So one of the questions we might get here is, if that area there is a bit concave, why don't I just take a really big hammer like this and whack it down? And the problem with that is it might do something, but the issue we've got is that there's what's called oil canning. So basically there's tension in the metal, so I can push it down and it will pop and then pops back. So we need to remove that tension, and I think the tension line is sort of across there. So this is where we can get into the idea of heat shrinking, because essentially there's slightly too much metal across there. Now we're talking thousandths of an inch, but that's what makes it basically pop back like an oil can. So what we're going to have a go at, is from the other side we're going to heat it up. So we'll get our oxy setting there, heat it up, hit the centre point to shrink some metal into it, and then basically hammer around the side with a dolly from this side, and that theoretically will take those points out, and then we'll see what we've got.
So here's the detail on how heat shrinking is done. The first thing is you get your gas welder. Theoretically you can do this with a gas blow lamp, but in my experience you end up getting the metal generally too hot, and it stretches too much before you get a single red hot spot. Gas welding allows you to get intense heat into a very specific point. When it's red hot, you then hit it very hard with the sharp point of the hammer, and this puts a deep dent into the metal. Then, with the dolly pressed hard onto the back of the dent, you hit around it with the flat end of the hammer to reduce the dent. And this is called off-dolly hammering. And with the dent smoothed down, you then quench the metal quickly with a damp rag. This causes a rapid contraction of the metal and hopefully tightens the surface. Sometimes you can get away with just doing this once, but in this case the overall door skin was very badly distorted, so I had basically had to continue the process of finding each high spot and then repeating the heat shrink over and over again on the hottest day of the year. Did I mention that? Okay, so that little montage represented about 5 hours of constant heat shrinking and general dolly work. Eventually, I got it good enough. There's always more smoothing that you can do, but I'm not going for a bare metal finish here, so I don't mind about the odd final imperfection. Now, I'm sure it looks terrible on the screen here, as the reflections show every little imperfection, but it's actually not too bad. No one dent or ripple is more than 1 millimeter deep, so that's an acceptable level to rely on for filler to handle the final smoothing. So next time, I'll obviously need to recreate the missing back panel in steel, so we'll get that done and then bodywork it overall. At that point, I can declare the driver's door good and start thinking about the passenger. I'm hoping that will be a much simpler process than the weeks it took me to get the driver's door done, as I've learned all the bad lessons already. I'll keep you posted.